Buckle up. Buckle up. Buckle up. Everybody buckle up. Buckle up. Buckle up. Everybody buckle up.
Let's go.
Buckle up.
Can we go to the store? Can we get some ice cream?
Everybody buckle up.
Everybody buckle up.
A lot goes on in the car, but remember, you're in control. Stand firm. Only move when you hear the click that says they're buckled in. Never give up until they buckle up. Learn more at safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Wait, hold up. I don't think you know about It's Saucy. It's flavorful, extraordinary, and mind-blowing. Hey, tune into It's Saucy, where I give you nothing but the greatest music out from back then till now, along with hip-hop news and trending topics. It's DJ Steph. Just know that.
It's saucy.
Listen to the Saucy Hour Wednesday nights at 10 o'clock here on the Voice of Nassau Community College on 90.3 WHPC.
Okay, men. This is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're going to go out there and be an all-star caregiver. It's up to you. So what are you going to do? You're going to go grocery shopping, cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You got to dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments. Don't you forget about the pharmacy. I know you won't, because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. This is your time to show the world, your family, and yourself that you're tougher than tough. Now go out there and be the best caregiver this world has ever seen. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
All right, we're back on Beyond the Game on the Voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Jacob Valk. Sitting across from me, Dominick Arbolino and Eric Fischetti. And we are fortunate enough to be joined by Hansen Alexander, the author of How the Lions Ate Tim Tebow, and the first repeat guest in Beyond the Game history. Hansen, how are you?
Well, I'm doing great now that I'm back on your show. You guys are going to win the ratings just based on this today.
I hope so. So, what exactly is your book about?
It's the case that Tim Tebow got blackballed from the National Football League on two grounds. First, his unorthodox throwing motion, which was never allowed to develop, as was, let us say, the case of Alex Smith, who had similar numbers his first year in the NFL. And the second part of it is that his religion, he wore on his sleeve. He proselytized on national television, at least during college games, and prayed on the sidelines during the Denver championship run in 2011. And, there some management's uncomfortable with that, and they saw it as a distraction. I don't see it as a distraction myself, because the proselytation of religious feelings and emotions and signs in college and professional football is pretty commonplace these days.
So can you lay out for us Tebow's health troubles, that he had when he was younger?
It had a lot of things. I think most damaging when he was in Pop Warner was Meniere's disease, which is an inner ear disease, which is very dangerous in football because it probably could be closely related in later life to a concussion. And he got this ringing in his ears and so on. But it seemed to have gone away at a certain age after he played for about 2 years. This is not uncommon in the population. I don't know what the percentage is, but it would have been very difficult for him to continue to play football in college and the pros with it. And he overcame that.
Okay, and why do you think enigmatic college players like Tim Tebow and even Johnny Manziel didn't transition well into the NFL?
Well, I mean, first of all, they're dual-threat quarterbacks, and dual-threat quarterbacks are much more effective in college because you don't account for the quarterback in the defense, and you do. In the NFL, also has the same problem. Defenses are not structured to account for the quarterback. However, the punishment that defensive players in the NFL inflict on the RG3s or players like that make it very difficult for dual-threat quarterback. Tebow is the exception because of his physical size. He succeeded to the degree that they let him because he could punish defensive backs by hitting them, and that's why it's a tragedy that he was not allowed to continue his career as both a running and passing quarterback in the NFL. One of the things that I point out is that his 50% passing percentage his first year, very similar to Michael Vick's numbers and very similar to Alex Smith's numbers. Those two quarterbacks were allowed to develop and eventually had passing percentages over 60%, and I maintain Tebow would have done the same.
Talking to Hansen Alexander, the author of How the Lions Ate Tim Tebow. So, where do you rank the duo of Tebow and Urban Meyer among the best head coach / quarterback duos in college football history?
Wow. Maybe number one. That Florida team, those Florida teams, and you're talking 2 national championships in 4 years, which has exceeded what, Urban Meyer has done in Columbus with Ohio State. It's just extraordinary. And Tim Tebow, in my opinion, is the greatest leader on the field of all modern quarterbacks. The way he took charge of a game, he was a gamer, his instincts, able to see things on the field that a lot of quarterbacks can't see. I would rate that as them as the number one combination.
I am so happy to hear you say that. Oh, my God.
Eric looks like he's about to spontaneously combust into happiness.
No, I expected top 5. I didn't know. Wow. Okay, you just became my favorite person. Thank you.
Hansen, I got to make sure you and Eric go out for lunch one day.
Hey, look, guys, I'm not just a writer. I'm also an attorney, and facts do matter. And, the image of Tim Tebow is this of a dual-threat quarterback who is only a runner in college. Let me give you some statistics here. Since SEC statistics have been were started, or we recognize them back to 1951. Okay, he has the highest percentage yard per attempt completions, 9.3. That's in SEC history. Okay, so that's better than Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, any of these people. His passing efficiency, during his 3 years in which he essentially threw the ball, 4th in the nation his sophomore year when he won the Heisman Trophy, 1st in the nation in 2009. He's 4th all time in SEC completion history, 66.4%. So this is a lot of passes against the best secondaries in college football.
Can I tell you something, Hansen, before Dominic asks his next question? When Tebow was traded to the Jets, I was doing backflips. I loved the trade because Mark Sanchez had a horrible third year. His confidence was shot. The media turned on him. Granted, I didn't, but I was under the assumption that Sanchez was going to go somewhere else. They were going to trade him. They were going to cut him. They were going to do something. And honestly, if I was Denver, I wouldn't have signed Peyton Manning. I'd have rolled with Tebow. Tebow played incredibly well for Denver. He won a playoff game against Dick LeBeau's defense. That's not done by accident.
Yeah, let me say to this, Jacob. Do you or anybody in his right mind think Brock Osweiler is the answer in Denver even today?
Oh, definitely not.
No.
Simeon isn't. Lynch isn't.
Look, one of the points that I make in the dialogues, and the book is written with a lot of humor and dialogue, the Broncos, in my opinion, could have won the 2015 Super Bowl with Tebow. Peyton Manning had some great years there, but that wasn't one of them. He really didn't do much to win that Super Bowl. Tim Tebow definitely could have won the Super Bowl for them, and frankly, he could still be their quarterback, and budget-wise, he would have cost them a lot less than Peyton Manning. Manning did put up record years, but the Super Bowl year, he was injured most of the time. He played, kind of half the time, and he didn't really do much in the Super Bowl itself. Tim Tebow could have won the Super Bowl for the Denver Broncos. Write it down.
I would agree with that immensely.
So you kind of mentioned it before, but I want to know, how do you think Tebow's outward displays of his Christian faith affected his career?
Well, for whatever reason, and I think unfairly, NFL general managers talk about distractions. Coaches talk about distractions. And they use the excuse of his faith just basically to blackball him. And that is, during the regular season, Tim Tebow gave few interviews with any of the teams he played for. He just didn't, he was not a distraction. The distractions were created by the teams themselves. You may remember when Tebow came to New York and signed with the Jets, it was the Jets who called a massive press conference. Tim Tebow did not talk to the press on a regular basis the rest of that horrible season for him in New York. So they basically used that excuse that he's a distraction not to re-sign him to any contracts. And it's a failure on their part.
Can I tell you something about that press conference? Let me tell you something about that press conference. I snuck out of science class, went into the bathroom with my phone in high school to watch that press conference. And that is a true story.
What a rebel you are.
Hey, Jacob, I also have to make a confession to you.
What's that?
I don't root for a professional football team.
Okay.
I root for the New York Jets.
Oh, that makes me so upset.
This might be my favorite interview that we've done, period. Oh, Hansen, I love you.
Well, I'm telling you, I've been, I'm old enough to remember Super Bowl III, the Jets win and all that, and I've been a long-suffering, Jets fan since. And talk about a dysfunctional franchise, unfortunately.
Just endure the suffering.
Yep.
Well, I'm a Giants fan. I got nothing to complain about yet. But going back to Tebow, do you think if Tebow changed his position from quarterback, which a lot of teams and people wanted him to do you think he could have lasted in the NFL?
Yeah, because you can always use a running back that can get you 5 yards to carry, and Tim Tebow never averaged less than that. But the point is, when you have someone of his leadership, you want him at quarterback because you want him to see the defense, and you want him to react, and you want him to use the instincts, and you want him to lead your team down the field. Yeah, you could put him an H-back, you could put a fullback, you could have done a lot of things with him. But why do you want to take his leadership off the field? And he refused that because his whole life he was told he couldn't play quarterback, going back to Pop Warner football in Jacksonville, Florida, and he said, I am a quarterback. And he recognized, I think, his own leadership capabilities, and I guess it goes back to the fact that his parents are missionaries. He himself has done missionary work. He's spoken to people in public gatherings. He's a good public speaker. He doesn't have much of a voice, but he's a good public speaker. To take his leadership away by not allowing him to play quarterback is just dumb. And I'm just telling you, he could still be the quarterback of the winning Denver Broncos if he were allowed to have stayed in Denver.
Talking to Hansen Alexander, the author of How the Lions Ate Tim Tebow. And Hansen, I'll get you out on this. Do you think that Tebow ever got a fair shot in the NFL?
No, not at all. Again, the big comparison I make is to Alex Smith, and again, 50% percentage completion his first year in San Francisco. The 49ers did not give up on Smith. They let him develop, and I think last year he was at 63% with Kansas City. They let him develop. You have to let an NFL quarterback develop. 1 year, that's absurd. 1 year, essentially, which is what he was allowed to get to start in the NFL, is not time to develop. It's just absurd.
That's actually a really good comparison to Alex Smith, because Tebow was a lot better than Alex Smith when he was younger. That's actually a really good comparison. You're giving me a lot to think about. To be objective about it, Tim Tebow's biggest weakness as a quarterback in passing is that short intermediate route or the slant pattern, which is, you got to wonder why the New England Patriots brought him in, because that's all they do. It was just a middle finger to the Jets. That's all that was.
Yeah, or else they were trying to steal signals from the Jets,
They're trying to bring back Spygate.
But Tebow's biggest weakness, again, is that short pass. But you know what? Guess what? other than Tom Brady, probably every other NFL quarterback, even the starting ones, have a difficulty with that intermediate pass, with that slant route. And most of your pick sixes in both professional and college football come from that pass. So he's not alone. Tim Tebow's not alone in having difficulty completing that pass. What he was very good at is throwing long passes. He has very nice looping, what I call a looping style of throwing the deep ball. Ball comes down.